Alright, how's it going everyone? Today I wanted to do a little bit of a different video. Today I actually wanted to show you how you, yes you, can build environments in Cyberpunk 2077 using a little mod called the Appearance Menu mod. First of all, this is obviously only for PC as consoles do not support mods, and also you won't be able to create anything on a console to my knowledge. And it also doesn't matter if you're playing Cyberpunk through GOG, through Red Launcher, through Steam. This all works pretty much the same. Now, I'm going to be assuming that you have downloaded AMM and you've opened it up in-game and you can see that everything works, but you just don't really know where to get started. I'm not going to be showing you how to install this mod, so if you haven't got it installed, please pause this video or close it down, whatever you want to do. Go and watch a install tutorial, come back to learn how to use the basics. So right about now, I'm in the North Oaks Casino. This is a unused location in Cyberpunk 2077, but I have been rebuilding this entire interior using AMM. So everything you are seeing here has been created with the Appearance Menu mod, all the way down to, you know, the NPCs, the models, the floor, the ceiling, the lighting, everything has been implemented with AMM. This is a preset which you can currently download. I'll link it in the description. It's a work in progress, and I do also stream this process pretty regularly on YouTube, so if you want to see me actually build this live, then feel free to come stop by. Alright, so actually getting into the meat and gravy of AMM, but once you've installed everything and you press whatever hotkey you assigned to Cyber Engine tweaks, in my case it's F7, when you press this key it should come up with like your mod menu per se. So you have your Cyber Engine tweaks up here, and then if you have other mods which are installed, they will also be here. And you should see that there's a little Appearance Menu mod box which appears right here. Now if it's not open, simply click on this little triangle here, this little play button, and this will open up the bulk of the mod. So there's a good amount of tabs here, and a lot of which are not going to be very useful to you, because AMM is one part a building, you know, simulator. It's a tool for creating environments and adding decorations to Night City, but the other side of it is a bit more of a machinima, a bit more of a cinematic creation tool set. If you're interested with the machinima side, then this video probably isn't for you, so you know, that's just worth pointing out. So anyways, I'm going to start off by just going through the tabs which you don't need. I want to make this very clear when you're wanting to build environments in Cyberpunk 2077. So the ones which you don't care about if you're wanting to build environments are the Spawn tab, the Swap tab, the Poses tab, potentially the Tools tab depending on what you're doing, and probably the Director tab as well. In reality, all you really need for building in AMM is the Decor tab. This is going to be your absolute foundation. This is, you know, your kind of base of operations. The Decor tab is essentially where you're going to be spawning in props. So this is the entire point of the Appearance Menu mod in relation to building things, is that the kind of crux of it is that you're presented with dozens of categories all relating to objects and how they have been put into a genre through AMM. Like for example, the Electronics tab is going to have, you guessed it, electronics, so arcade machines, screens, there's probably going to be TVs and monitors, coffee machines, you get the idea. Whereas something like furniture will be more like sofas, it'll be toilets, chairs, an aquarium, things like that. So yeah, that's the first thing to bear in mind, is that if you're wanting to find something, like you have something in mind but you don't know exactly what it's called, then this is probably going to be a good place to start. Say for example, I'm wanting some kind of chair, I'm probably going to look in furniture, have a look at all of the chair options and kind of go from there. Now the other option is obviously to type things out. So if you know exactly what you want in mind, like for example, I want a rich sofa, I can type in rich sofa and it will bring up any items which have rich or sofa in the title of the model. So that's one thing to bear in mind, is that when you're typing things into the AMM Decor tab, you are typing and filtering through through the words which you are inputting. So it will only bring up a rich sofa if it has rich sofa in the name. Now, I say this and it might seem a little bit stupid to point this out. Say, for example, you're looking for a coffee machine, right? And you type in coffee machine, and maybe the model which you actually wanted doesn't appear because it's not actually called a coffee machine, even though when you look at it for face value, it's very clearly an object to create coffee. AMM might have listed it as a I don't know, a bar item, a apartment item, which can be a little bit annoying. And if you find something which you like, it's worth maybe noting it down, or you can favorite it once you spawn it in. The only other two boxes which are useful to know are the show customizable only and the show custom props only. Both of these boxes are filters. The show customizable only, if you check this, only displays items which are customizable. Now, I know that doesn't really help in terms of what that means, but if we were to spawn in, say for example, a beanbag, and then we were to head over to the scan tab, you can see that the beanbag has been selected up here, and we have a alternate amount of appearances which we can cycle through. The second box which you can check is show custom props only. Now, if you've just installed AMM, there's a very, very high chance that you will not need this box, and that's because this box only shows custom props, i.e. props which aren't packaged with AMM, with vanilla AMM, with a fresh install of AMM. These models are not present with AMM. These are only present because I've downloaded them and installed them to AMM's folder. So now we'll actually move on to creating a preset and spawning items in, saving them into this preset and making them persistent. Because with AMM, you can spawn in absolutely anything you want. Like for example, if we were to spawn in a Arasaka logo, we can see that this has indeed been spawned into the world. It doesn't have collision. Not all models have collision. You might pass through it. However, if I were to spawn this prop in right now, close my game and reopen it, this Arasaka logo would not remain in the game. It would be gone by the time I come back to this roof. There's a very good and a very simple explanation for why that happens. That's because this prop is not baked into the game. It has, yes, been spawned in, but it hasn't been saved into any kind of preset. Think about if you're using something like Microsoft Word and you were to type out a paragraph and close Word without saving. You wouldn't expect your paragraph to be in Word when you open it back up because you haven't saved it. You haven't baked it into a file which you can open, modify, rename, delete, all of those things. AMM behaves in the exact same way. In order to actually bake items into Cyberpunk to make them persistent, we have to save them into a preset. So if we head over to the presets tab right here, you can see that my casino preset has been automatically selected. However, yours will probably look something like this, where it will simply say my preset. What you want to do first of all is actually click on the rename button right here, and this will allow you to rename whatever preset you currently have selected. So in this case, we have a fresh preset called my preset, and I'm just going to call it Sir MZK. Now I'm going to hit save right about here, and you can see that Sir MZK is now the preset which we are currently using. So once we have our Sir MZK preset created, we can go ahead and go back to our spawned props, and you can see here that the Arasaka logo gold is sat right about here. Now we can do a few things with this. We can favorite it, we can save it, despawn, hide, target, and clone. We can also move this object in the game's world. However, what I'll show you first of all is simply how to save an item, how to bake it into a preset. If you're happy with your prop, let's just say, then we're going to go ahead and click the save button. Now what that will do is save it into the saved props tab, which is right about here. But to make it just a little bit more confusing, this hasn't actually saved it into the preset. This has just moved it to the saved props tab. Try not to think about it too much, right? The one thing which you do have to do in order to move the saved prop into the preset is to head over to presets and click save here as well. So you spawn your item in, it appears in the spawn tab, you save it into the saved props tab, and then you save that into the presets tab. So you're basically doing 2 lots of saving. And then if we were to go ahead and click on new preset, you can see that this will get rid of our Arasaka logo because we're no longer in the Sir MZK preset, we're in the default My preset. But clicking on the drop down box, you can see that Sir MZK has now appeared as one of the presets. So if we were to click on Sir MZK, we can see that it spawns in right about here. And that is it. That's saved now. That is in the Sir MZK preset. And if you were to reload Cyberpunk 2077, open up this preset, it will be exactly where you left it. So to recap, when you spawn an item in, say for example Arasaka letters, which are up here, and you're happy with the placement, you click save. This will move it into the save props. And then we go to the presets, making sure Sir MZK is still set, and we save it here as well. Now, if you wanted to take some of these models out of your preset, you can go to the save props and click on the location. This is how AMM works. It works through locations and coordinates. You can see that our Arasaka letters, these things, are saved here, and also our Arasaka logo gold is down here. And if we were to remove these, well, we can do that. We can click remove, and they're gone. If you've removed an item and you want it to stay removed, just like spawning things in, you also have to save it into the preset. So you click save on the preset. So now I want to move on to movement with AMM. How do you move objects, right? How do you make them go exactly where you want them to go? So say for example we spawn our Arasaka logo back in, you can see that it spawns basically on us. It might spawn a little bit in front of you, but generally speaking it's going to be pretty close to your vicinity. Sometimes models may spawn higher or lower. In that case it's useful to have free fly or no clip installed so you can move around and actually kind of, you know, assess if props have gone into the floor. Once we spawned this in, we first of all want to make sure that the item is targeted, and you'll know if it's targeted because it will appear in the spawn tab in blue writing. So Arasaka logo gold, very much in blue. If you've only spawned in one item into this box, then it will always be selected by default. However, if we were to spawn in another item like the Arasaka letters, we can see that this new prop has now become the targeted prop because it's now in blue. Arasaka logo gold is now in a yellow writing. So that means that Arasaka is targeted. If we wanted to target the logo, we click target, and that makes it blue. As you can see, target, 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 target. So in order to move anything, any props with AMM, what you want to move has to be targeted. That's a pretty straightforward concept, I like to believe. And once it is targeted, what we can do is go over to the Tools tab in AMM and just click this button here which says Open Target Tools. Now, once this has been opened, you can ideally put this to the left of your screen. This is usually the best way of going about with AMM, to have your target tools on the left and then to have the main mod on the right. Or you can have it, you know, opposite. It doesn't really matter. To my knowledge, I don't think you can resize these boxes, so I think they're pretty much always this size. So once we have our target tools open, these should stay open so long as a object is targeted. If an object is not targeted, the target tools will not open. So just bear that in mind. Now, the target tools may look a little bit confusing. They may look a little bit intimidating, but at the end of the day, they are extremely simple. These 6 boxes at the top are, again, like your foundation for how to move props. These are basically just coordinates, and look, I'm not a big mathematical guy. Maths and numbers scares the shit out of me. I'm not good with numbers, but even I can work with these coordinates, so I promise you it's not too difficult. Chances are your AMM will probably look something like this, where all the boxes are the same colors. Now, if you want to enable the X, Y, and Z kind of color coordination, you can check this little box down here with the 3 arrows, which will also bring up the 3 arrows in the Cyberpunk world. So you can see our yellow arrow is here, our blue arrow is here, you get the idea. So moving on to the boxes. First of all, we have a red box, which is our X coordinates. We have our yellow box, which is our Y coordinates, and then our blue box, which is our Z coordinates. So think about coordinates, right? Think about school, whether you're still at school or whether it feels like a distant memory. And I'm sure you understand the basic premise of X, Y, and Z. To be honest with you, I don't think about them in terms of X, Y, and Z because I'm not mathematically minded. But if you like numbers, then chances are this will make a lot more sense to you. When you're wanting to change an object and how it appears in the game's world, you can double click on these boxes and manually change the numerical values of these boxes. So if we drop it down, you can see that the object is moving further away. If we move it up, then you can see it's moving closer to us. So that is something which you can do. You can absolutely go through double clicking and changing these tiny little values in order to move the objects. However, I will level with you right now. I do not think that this is an effective way of building. I think it absolutely can be useful if you're making sure that kind of repetitive objects like lights, for example, are perfectly, numerically symmetrical. That is the only time in my experience where coordinates have been useful. For the most part, the much easier method of moving objects with AMM is to left click on any one of these boxes, keep left click held down, and move your mouse to either the left or to the right. And as you can see, this will actually change the value in real time, as well as moving this object in real time. And well, if you're moving it to the left, you can see the number is going down. If you're moving it to the right, then the number is going up. There's no like up, down movements with the cursor, it's left and right. Now this, I find, is much more intuitive. It provides much better feedback on what you're trying to do, as opposed to changing individual numbers and sitting around with your fingers up your ass trying to work out precise coordinates for models. I don't think it's needed for the vast majority. So yeah, your first box is your X coordinates, your second box is your Y coordinates, and then your third box, the blue box, is your up and your down, or your Z coordinates. That's basically the first 3 fundamentals of moving objects with AMM, and I would personally just spend 5-10 minutes pissing around with this, just getting a flavour, getting a feel for how these models work and how the movement is interpreted within the game itself. Below the first 3 boxes, we have an additional 3 boxes, and these are very, very similar, and I don't know the mathematical terms for these 3 boxes. However, they're described with AMM as the tilt and the rotation, and you can just try these one by one. So the first box will tilt the model kind of sideways, as you can see. The second box will move it so it can be flat, it can be flush, it can twirl around and catch the light, and the final box will physically rotate it. And that is the movement covered. AMM's movement is ultimately boiled down to 6 boxes, 6 fat boxes of coordinates, which you can either alter through double clicking and manually changing numbers, or by left clicking, keeping it held down and moving your mouse either left or right. Now there are a couple quality of life things which are useful just below the movement tools. We have a precision mode which is incredibly useful. If you check this box, this basically slows down the sensitivity of the movement. So as you can see with the coordinates, when we're changing them, this model is flying at quite aggressive speeds. This can be quite difficult if you're using small models which are quite finicky. It's pretty difficult to sit here and slowly edge your hand along trying to get it down precise movements. And yes, you can of course just use the change the values, you can do that absolutely, But if you don't want to go back and forth, the precision box just, as I said, lowers the sensitivity. So now you can see it's a hell of a lot less sensitive. The other few boxes down here, such as relative, direct and advanced movement, I have never used. I don't know what they do. Moving down, we have position. This again, I don't use. I think it can be useful, but for the most part, you know, if you're just starting out, don't worry about this at all. Now, scale, however, is something which will be extremely useful to you. Scale is pretty self-explanatory. It is quite literally the scale of the object. Now, one thing to note is that not all objects with AMM scale. Some of them are preset sizes and cannot be altered through AMM. For example, if we were to have this targeted, you can see that there's no scaling option for this light, whereas the Arasaka logo, there is a scaling option. So just bear in mind that if it's not appearing, chances are AMM isn't fucking broken, it's probably just a model which doesn't support it. There is a checkbox here for proportional mode. If you were to uncheck this, this actually gives you a similar sort of interface to the coordinates to move the item. However, we now have it in terms of the scale. So it's the same premise, exact same premise. We have our X, our Y and our Z coordinates, and we can individually change the scale of said coordinates. So say for example, if I just wanted this model to be taller, I could change this to 200, and you can see it hasn't affected the rest of the model. So now we have this weird, awkward kind of oval shaped Arasaka logo. So that covers the movement side of things. Really the only other thing left to talk about is in regards to some of the other buttons over here which you can press. So the favorite button, obviously favorites whatever prop you have spawned in. The despawn button will despawn the item, so that's now gone. The hide button will actually hide the object, but it won't despawn it from the preset. I don't find this to be very useful, mostly because the hide status doesn't save when you reload the preset. So if I had this hidden, I went and rebooted the SirMZK preset, it would automatically unhide itself, which is a bit annoying because that could be useful. Target is, well, as we said, we just targeted the item, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the clone button is also extremely useful. This will just create a duplicate of whatever model you have spawned in, and it will create this clone, it will target it automatically, and most importantly, it will spawn it in on the exact same coordinates. So this means that when we start to move it, it should be on the same X axes or Y axes as the original. And really that's just about it. There isn't really much to cover. I feel like we've covered pretty much everything for AMM, because at the end of the day, it's not the most complicated thing in the world. So yeah, hopefully that helped, guys. If it did, feel free to leave a like on the video. Cheers for watching, and as always, I'll catch you lot in a bit.